actually happening. Marketing is going through one of its biggest transformations ever, where this thing controls the game. And there's so many things we pay attention to, but we get to talk to the brightest and best minds in marketing on Marketing.
Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to a very special Asia Pacific edition of Marketing for Now, focused on the topic of Gary's latest venture, latest book, Day Trading Attention. We've got an amazing lineup from all across the Asia Pacific region, we'll introduce in a minute, but say hi to the big man himself. Hi, Gary. How are we doing?
I am well, Tim. Thank you so much for everybody who's watching live right now. I see the numbers climbing quickly, and it is a real privilege to do the Asia Pacific version of this show, because as everyone who's watching right now is about to find out, there's an extraordinary amount of incredible marketing talent in that part of the world. And obviously, the thing that I'm obviously so excited about is this concept of day trading attention. Obviously, has really worked in the US, and people refer to that, and obviously a lot of Silicon Valley companies are at the forefront of that, but the opportunities in all over the world, including in APAC, are extreme, and I'm really happy to be here with you, Tim. Tim, please give everybody a little context for you and what you do.
Sure, no worries. So I'm Tim, I'm based in Singapore. I run the VaynerMedia operations for our Asia Pacific region. We have a number of offices that have expanded incredibly quickly over the last 5 years. So Singapore, Japan, Australia, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, India, and still growing, working with some incredible companies, a couple of which you'll see here, and many more that we work with and consult with. Lots going on. I've been very fortunate to be working with Gary for three and a bit years now. But yeah, wonderful. It's exciting to be here. I think you're right. There's very different conversations sometimes that happen in this region. A bunch of platforms that only exist in certain markets here, which maybe haven't scaled fully across the world in the same way as some that most are very familiar with. But I think the principles apply. Principles are universal, very human truths. So look, let's kick it off. We've got a bunch of guests to get through. Our first guest, Mansha Tandon. She is the head of marketing at YouTube India. She also leads brand and reputation for Google India. Mansha, wonderful to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So exciting.
So Mansha, it's a real pleasure. You know, obviously we have a very global audience right now watching. Give us a little lay of the land of what you're seeing in YouTube and Google brand life, specifically in India, where, you know, I think people around the world are very aware of how incredible the country is and progressive, but I think sometimes underestimate the sheer size and scale, and more importantly, or equally interesting, the fragmentation of languages and dialects and consumer behavior within that incredibly scaled country. But what's the state of the union in your world?
Yeah, I think to understand the state of the union in India, you have to step back, rewind it back about 10 years, right? About a decade ago, Gary, we had maybe 4 cars, 3 movie stars, 2 soaps, 1 viral video, right? And so we had a lot of time, Indians had a lot of time and few channels. And so attention was overpriced in that sense, right? And what's happened 10 years hence is it's an absolute explosion, right? It's 750 million people spending hours and hours on the internet, consuming content in, 22 different languages and hundreds of dialects. And so there's a lot of underpriced attention to be had in India today. And I think the challenge for marketers is, how do you penetrate that explosion, this 10x explosion that's happened in India? How do you penetrate it and then build your brand and monetize consumer communities? So yeah,
when you think,
crazy wonderful time.
No question. When I think about India, and when I think about America or Brazil or China, there's, to your point, and my great thesis, there's underpriced and overpriced attention. Looking at YouTube under your name, I started YouTube videos in February 2006.
Wow.
18 years ago.
Early.
And I thought it was very underpriced attention. What scares me, and I use that as a slang term for excites me, 18 years later, I think YouTube is one of the most underpriced platforms in the world. I'm going to go very specific with you. And I would love to get your take on this. I believe, and I'm not saying that, I pride myself in being pretty straight shooting. I don't say this to be nice to you, though I like you and you're very lovely. I believe pre-roll YouTube ads, when done right, when the video is made for YouTube, not something that came from a TV commercial, meaning it understands what it has to do in the first 2-3 seconds of the video, or I, like everyone else, am gonna skip. Talk to me about the relationship of the creative that is contextual to the underpriced attention from your point of view.
Yeah. Look, I mean, people know YouTube as the platform for pre-roll videos, but I put it to you that digital video content has so many formats today. It's so fragmented, right? And you get this, right? So I know you get this, but what marketers need to do is get with the program of, what we're talking about at YouTube, which is multi-format, right? A pre-roll video back in the day, just a pre-roll video, creative, done well, whether it's 20 seconds or 60 seconds, let's not get into the duration. But a pre-roll video done well was all it took, but that was a few years ago. And now users are consuming content in short format, right? They're consuming long format, live streams, vodcasts are the new thing, right? And so as a marketer, you really need to jump on that bandwagon and make sure that you are capitalizing and leveraging the different formats of attention, right? And so that pre-roll.
What do you, I understand that. What do you think, why do you think so many big companies struggle with contextual creative for those format? To your point, you go look at YouTube in Japan, virtual influencers are important. I bring up pre-roll YouTube. I'll tell you why. $70 billion is spent on television commercials in America, and 99% of it is garbage. And I believe that before they even understand how to make native YouTube shorts or YouTube Live or all this incredible stuff you have, we're 17 years into pre-roll YouTube and nobody makes creative for pre-roll YouTube. Somebody in the comments, Tim just said, he said, too many people are still not doing that, right? Like every person watching right now, there's 3,000 people watching. They all know that 99% of the pre-roll YouTube, before we even get into where you're going, which is you have 19 things you offer marketers, they don't even have the first thing down yet.
Yeah, and it isn't any, silver bullet. It's pretty simple. Marketers need to listen to their consumers. They need to understand them beyond the demographic, Gary. That's what it is. If you understand that your consumer is watching 10 different types of formats, then you'll understand that that's how you need to reach them. So there isn't some sort of genius answer to this.
The issue is, and this, and this is for all the regular people that don't work in advertising, which are the regular, meaning the smart ones. This at creative agencies, creative AORs don't know how to make creative for these mediums.
And tell me a little bit about how you're looking at this, because you're from, you've got this big agency.
Yeah,
we're ahead of the
but we got lucky. I don't think I'm a superstar. We just started 14 years ago, and I hate television. I love television. I hate television commercials because nobody watches them.
Yeah.
So the only reason we're winning and are going to win is I know that everybody who's watching right now really, 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 really does not watch television commercials outside of Super Bowl. And I know everyone here consumes an incredible amount of organic social media content. And I believe you have one of the few ads that could work. Pre-roll and mid-roll YouTube from a media buying standpoint is high potential. The reason most people don't win on it is they don't know how to make creative for it.
Yeah, in defense of Indian marketers though, right? This whole idea that, marketers don't get the idea. In defense of them, they actually get it, right? We've seen.
I'm sorry, I want to make myself very clear. I don't think marketers don't get it in India, America, APAC, Brazil. I believe that Fortune 500 marketers don't get it. I mean, Will It Blender company 15 years ago got it. Dollar Shave Club got it 9 years ago.
Immediately, yep.
Coca-Cola doesn't get it. BMW doesn't get it. Burger King doesn't get it because they do traditional TV thinking. There's unlimited people that get it. They're called entrepreneurs.
That's so interesting you say that, because as I think of this whole multi-format world in India, the marketers that are really leveraging all those different types of format in the best way are many of our small to medium businesses, mom and pop stores, right? Who are jumping on the trend. They're jumping on the latest song trend or the dialogue trend. And then they're creating sort of, I would say, personalized pop culture, right? You must actually want to watch. So you're right. I don't think all big marketers don't get it, but you're right that small to medium businesses and entrepreneurs get it more.
And by the way, it's not that they're smarter, though they might be. My argument is that creative agencies want to make television.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know we've run out of time. Tim, thank you much. I appreciate you. Continued success. You guys are doing great stuff.
You got to come to India. Have you been?
I've been multiple times, and I'm going to be back soon.
All right. We'll see you then. See you later. Bye. Thanks,
Pancha. Big start. One of the most underpriced things here for marketers is the chat going on around this entire actual show.
Give some love out. Natasha Jordan, great to see you on YouTube. Steve Runweck, thank you. Anthony Corliss on Facebook, great to see you. Lauren Chen on X, great to see you. Hugh Scallion, who works at our company, Tim, on LinkedIn, very nice. Stephen Renwick on X, great to see you. Joseph Capolato on X, Miranda Biebel on Facebook, Murph's World on YouTube.
Love it. Amazing. Real consumers and Hugh. Hi. Amazing. Right, let's shift gears. We're going to go down to Australia, and we're going to meet the Chief Marketing Officer of Dabble, social betting app. That is Emily Jersh. Emily, come join us.
Hello. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hi, Emily.
Dabble. Let me tell you a bit about Dabble, and for those of the viewers who might not know us, and but you will soon, that's for sure. We're a social media sports betting app launched in Australia, and what that means is it'll open up to a feed, much like a Facebook, X, or LinkedIn, and you can follow your mates, you can follow some of our ex-athletes who are ambassadors for us, you can follow tipsters, and then you can one-click to copy bet them. We have banter channels just like a Discord or a Reddit, and then we have a nightly live stream just like this one. So it's all the best of all the social media apps, all blended into one, backed with sports betting at the core. And we encourage people to start a community, build communities and networks through our social media features and bonded by sports betting at the core, which is obviously what people are super passionate about. So that's a bit about us. And we've recently launched in the US. We've had screaming success, which has been fantastic. We grew to over 500,000 users within 2 months. So it's been super popular in the US, and we've launched that in sort of a fantasy capacity, daily fantasy sports. So it's blowing up over there.
I love that. Emily, when you hear day trading attention, which I define as every day, everyone here, whether it's an incredible startup like Dabble or an individual content creator or a small business owner that cuts hair, understanding where to put your time and energy on making videos, pictures, and written words and spending media that will get you high return versus spending time and energy on something that won't. Obviously you've achieved the ultimate status in marketing. You're a CMO of an important company. As you've gone through your career, can you give us a story of a place where you got great underpriced attention in one of your companies or the current one, and a story of where you overpaid for something with very little return in return?
Yeah, for sure. So we have about a 2% share in Australian market, and our biggest competitor, Sportsbet, has about 50% share. And they were actually one of Australia's biggest advertisers, and they would do your traditional TVC and have all the sports assets locked up, your AFL, NRL, all of the sports rights, and they pay absolute millions to be the partner in that regard. Whereas we know we'll just never get cut through if we try to compete in that space in terms of tier one sports and in the TV advertising space. It's just too cluttered. So we needed to be smarter and zig when everyone else zags. and how did we cut through and find a space where we would have that underpriced attention. So we became one of TikTok's pilot partners. So they only recently opened up to wagering in Australia on the TikTok platform. And we were allowed on there with 2 or 3 other partners, which means we had a bit of clean air. And while some of our competitors were repurposing some of their TVCs, as you were just talking about in the last session, cutting a TVC off to a vertical, lose half the ad in there. We went with a completely TikTok first approach, Snapchat first, YouTube Shorts approach, vertical everything, pretty much everything we do is cut like that. And we went with an entertainment-led approach rather than don't bother selling, where our target audience is Gen Z, not surprisingly. So we just know they're turning off traditional advertising. How do we make them laugh and then engage with them that way and know that they'll come? So we're actually seeing, our reps have told us we have the lowest CPAs of all of our competitors who have 80% of the share of the market on TikTok and Snapchat, which is a pretty amazing feat considering we have 2% market share. So we're definitely punching above our weight, and it's all just about that engagement first. Just make people laugh. Give them an offer, you'll have a customer for a week. Make them laugh, you'll have a customer for a lifetime. So
I love that. In the history of your career, where do you think you learned, or give me an example of something where you genuinely saw something that was grossly overpriced? The company spent tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars, and like a year later, you're like, oh my God, that did nothing.
Yeah, good question. I think there's a lot of sports sponsorships, and in Australia being a sports mad market, but only a finite amount of assets, it's an absolute bubble when it comes to those sports sponsorships. And some of the sporting bodies are charging crazy prices for a partnership, which I think they've been thinking about it the wrong way with this traditional, just, slap some banners on stadium signage and everything like that. And just knowing that that's not accountable, it's not addressable. It's sort of gone to those days where those large sponsorships actually have impact, unless they're data-led integration, content opportunities, ambassadors. I think that's where you can actually get value out of those things. But a lot of those big sports sponsorships, I think the sporting bodies really need to innovate in the way that they approach what they're offering for sponsors.
Emily, what about influencers and creators? How do you think of them as being overpriced or underpriced? Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's one we played around a lot with, and our ambassador program is mostly ex-athletes, which what we're finding is they're potentially not always what you'd consider a traditional influencer, in that they're not content creators, they're not, social to the core, they're not natural, social natives. So that's a lot of hand-holding involved in that. But they have the kudos of being a big name. So it's hard when do you pay for a big name athlete, ex-athlete?
You think a big name athlete without her own or his own distribution is starting to lose leverage because of the social world, right? Like an athlete that is a great footy Hall of Famer, but he might only have 10,000 followers on Instagram because he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
I'm very aware, which is why I even use the terminology of footy.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me that hopefully whoever of those people see this right now, they need to realize the world has changed and that their relevance is declining very rapidly if they don't have their own distribution?
Yeah, 100%. I think joining the broadcast or commentators will only get you so far. And we'll see in sports culture these days, it's all about the stories around the sport. We've seen that from your Drive to Survive phenomenon of everybody wants to know not what happens between the two sirens. They want to know what happens in and around the game, outside, how these people are living. And that's such a massive opportunity for athletes. I think there's so many athletes at the moment, they're all realizing that being a media personality or an influencer is the way forward. And so we're seeing so many footy players in the US, Australia, basketballers, everyone has a podcast these days, all the athletes, and people want to hear from them. So I think a lot of them are learning pretty quickly that that's the way forward, to have the distribution channels, podcasts, social content.
You're one woman with one subjective opinion. I'm going to throw out platforms to you, and I'd love to get your, hot take or one sentence or one word. How are you feeling about Instagram?
Great. I think it's probably too old for our demographic, which is interesting. Well, people seem shocked when we say that. Probably a bit slow when we're talking about trends and jumping on board of, capitalizing on, I guess, the Gen Z zeitgeist. It's probably not fast enough for us.
Twitch
is seeing a decline. It has great attributes. Really like the interactivity that it has, that connection to the influencers, but I think users are all jumping off that platform in favor of more YouTube and TikTok, I'd say.
YouTube Shorts.
A massive opportunity. We've just started to dabble, excuse the pun, in that area and seeing awesome engagement.
How many times a day in the office do people say things like, we
use that one a little bit? It helps. We're trying to make that a term as I Googled it, I had a dabble.
I love it. Well, listen, I have a bunch more, but I think we're going to run out of time. Tim, I'm trying to stay on track. You made me promise. I see it's 9:21 my time. So Emily, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Emily. Amazing. Sweet. All right, well, let's move you straight on. We will stay on track. Next up, we have Abhishek from L'Oreal, who runs the SAP MENA region, which you might need to explain to us. Over to you guys.
Absolutely. Hi, Gary. Nice to see you again.
Always good to see you, my friend. Yes, tell us of the SAP MENA. I was excited when I saw that, but I think South Asia Pacific.
So I like to define it as if you were to draw a diagonal across the planet from Morocco to New Zealand, that's the range of markets that we cover. It's South Asia, Pacific, Middle East, and North Africa region. The reason why we created this is because this is the fastest growing region in terms of the emergence of consumers, the growth reservoir. So there's a huge opportunity for us to capture the next billion consumers in the beauty category, and it needed special attention. So we decided to form SAP MENA and keep North Asia as separate.
Very good. I like that. Makes a lot of common sense to me. Manish, Abby, talk to me about this concept of how we think about over in the Vaynerland day trading attention, overpriced and underpriced opportunities. We think the delta is bigger than ever. We think the biggest brands in the world, like L'Oreal, have the potential to waste money in a way that is wild. And we think it has the potential to gain attention and impact at a very low cost. When you hear that framework, based on what you know as a digital officer, including digital, right? Look, if you don't do social media right, you can waste $10 million very quickly. So it's not a vanilla statement. When you hear that, what's your first reaction? What's your statement to that from your perspective, your career, for everyone who's listening?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the right nerve because I feel that L'Oreal stands at a place where it's also a very traditional, big scale company. At the same time, it's a very agile and nimble and works like a unicorn at the speed of culture. So there's a lot that is happening, and we try to focus our bets on fewer, bigger, better. That really impacts the business, that really impacts in building brands for us. And you would see that the quarterly results that were out for L'Oreal just a week ago is a testament to the fact that we're still one of the largest beauty brands, and we are here to stay, and we are here to build brands. Now, when you talk about attention, I think it's important for us to understand that we stay true to the consumer centricity piece. That where is the consumer? What is the consumer doing? We're obsessed about that. And right now we see that there is a lot happening in the social space. There's a lot of fragmentation as well. I was just hearing you talk earlier about the creators and influencers. I think there's a lot of fragmentation in this space because there is TikTok, which has a TikTok shop in Southeast Asia markets, and also then the influencers or the experts of beauty and skin, in makeup and hair categories. That adds to the credibility, but also adds to the complexity for us and how to manage that. I think we always rely on the measurement frame that impacts the business and brand, and not look at the vanity metrics of reach or just looking at awareness. It has to have like the results of driving the business.
Abby, let's talk about that. Do you, when I say the following, tell me how you think about this as a guy, and then what you see in your company. For everybody who's watching who's not part of big Fortune 500 brand marketing, Abby just touched on a very important part, which is like, you can see how many likes something has, what the Nielsen ratings are. He will tell you, and I will tell you, there's unlimited reports in Fortune 500 marketing that are bullshit, that like don't match. Abby, do you agree with me, or do you disagree with me, or do you have a different take? I believe that separating media and creative has caused a lot of issues, right? Measuring marketing is so easy for companies that don't separate it, and impossible for the Fortune 500 companies that separated it 20 years ago. Do you feel like there's a chance in the next decade that the biggest companies in the world, like L'Oreal, force agencies, not a holding company with two different companies, but more like VaynerMedia and some of the new companies that are coming up, where media and creative's under one roof, and you have one, as they say in old 1980s talk, one throat to choke, because you're being measured on business results, not fake proxies. Do you believe, like I believe, that we're in the pre-dawn of Fortune 500 bringing media and creative together again under one roof because of this paradigm shift?
Absolutely. I think that has been the conversation going on for the past 2 years, especially with the emergence of TikTok and emergence of these short formats, where we know that content is the entry point where we can engage our consumers, and then the media connects to them. So it has to work hand in hand, and we are pushing the boundaries. We are working with our agency partners, with publishers, with the likes of TikTok, Google, Meta as well, to really understand how can we bring these 2 points together, and have the right bets designed for our markets. It's a key priority for us, and I think from top management to the working teams in L'Oreal, this is something that we are extremely passionate about.
Abby, when I say underpriced attention, what comes to mind as the biggest opportunities right now?
I feel Instagram is definitely underpriced.
From an organic reach standpoint, from a media buy standpoint, or from something else?
I think from a cost per engagement standpoint, and also if I compare the quality of engagement that happens on Instagram, whether it is posts or whether it is reels, I think you get a diverse variety of engaging with the consumers, and not necessarily just having a short format video, which is just one scroll away and then you're gone. I think it provides a lot of diverse opportunities to engage with the consumer, especially the young ones on Insta. Snap is also another opportunity that we are seeing that's growing in MENA and also in India as well. So there's a huge opportunity for us to get into that. Twitch, I heard Twitch is on a decline in Australia, but I think Twitch is somewhere we see that is growing exponentially in Southeast Asia.
I think Twitch is exploding. I understand, this, people come from different angles. I was following how Emily was talking about it, but I'm with you. Like, the depth of live streamers is absurd.
Absolutely. It is. And the way the live streaming is also diversified, that you have marketplaces and then social platforms and gaming. I think it's a norm, and you have to be there. So we are making constant efforts to be there 24/7 on these platforms to engage with the consumers. And it's about like authentic conversations.
Abby, do you agree with, I know we're going to have to move in a second, but Abby, do you agree with me that one of the bigger challenges also, Tim, I knew Tim was going to ruin it.
I don't know. You could go.
Real quick, do you agree with me that another elephant in the room that we need to address is creative AORs can no longer be paid for one big idea, that they have to be able to produce this creative at
Absolutely.
scale?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is what our sort of strategy is also, that we're pushing our partners of not just looking at, one big idea and only looking at TVCs. I think that's like the marketing for 5 years back, 6 years back. But now it's just about like having what's relevant right now. How can we tap onto that pulse and create something that is more meaningful for our consumers, for our tribes? How do we build communities? I think that's very important for us in L'Oreal. And since we have like diverse range of brands, I think we have more choices to talk to different tribes of the consumers as well. So it's about being like genuine there.
Yeah. Abby, thank you for being on.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Thank you, Gary.
Massive. Big
Thanks.
region. Good luck. Gary, okay, well, let's switch gears. We're going to get some CEO talk going on now. I'll bring on Kyle, who heads the whole shebang at PepsiCo for ANZ, Indochina, and everything else going. Kyle, come on in.
Hey, good to see you, Gary.
Bro, you look like a teenager. You shouldn't be the CEO of the whole shebang. This feels better
Southeast
than
Asia is good to you, Gary.
Yeah. Brother, you've been listening. Why don't you take the floor for the first 2-3 seconds on everything you've observed since we started this show? And, obviously I know you a little bit. What's your thought on this day trading, overpriced, underpriced, this paradigm shift? How significant is it for the entrepreneurs and kids that are listening? How significant is it for the kids in marketing school that are coming into our world? And how significant is it to the contemporaries that you have? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I'll give you a few minutes perspective, Gary, and then jump in with me. I think clearly the world's changed, right? And so if you're new, you're just coming in, you're realizing that because you're in the beat. For those folks who have been in the business a bit longer, I think, one of the biggest things I challenge my team is I'm not worried about you working in the office. I'm worried about you working in the field and getting out, understanding our consumers. And then as you start to think about, to me, the most important thing, if you're building a brand, whether it's a big Fortune 500 brand or whether you're starting a brand, it's relevance. And relevance is meaningful connection. I can't make it any easier than that. If you're not having meaningful connections, you're just spending expensive dollars. And that's really what's going on. And then Gary, as a CEO, when you think about A&M or creative, to me, what really matters is what you said. And it's a bit of what we're doing in Australia with some of the pilots you're leading with us, right? Are we creating a real connection that is emotive and visceral with our consumers? Are we building brand health? But at the end of the day, let's be honest, we have shareholders. And everyone's got a shareholder. If you're a big Fortune 50, it's Wall Street for me. If you're an entrepreneur like my brother, it's your kids because you want to put them through uni, right? Like everyone's got a shareholder. So is that work selling more of whatever you're selling? That's the piece we really need to be talking about a bit as well. Is are we moving more units?
I'm going to say something. I believe one of the reasons entrepreneurs tend to build real value is, you're right, and I like the way you position that, but a purebred entrepreneur knows that if their shareholders are actually the end consumer, their kids will get into any uni they want because they'll be able to pay for them to get in.
Exactly. That's how, we think about, and I'm even changing this word internally, right? We used to call it consumer centric. And I said, hey, if you treat it as consumer, you see it as an economic model, right? If we talk about, someone who loves Twisties, a brand you've worked on with me, right? In Australia, don't treat them as consumers. Think about them as humans, right? I think entrepreneurs do this so well. You're obsessed with your humans that you're trying to create a connection with, right? You understand their interests. You know what a day in the life looks like. You know their needs, their wants and desires, and then you've created something that they want, right? I think that's the piece in a big organization or legacy marketing organizations where, I'll ask somebody, when's the last time Southeast Asia is just here with Lay's team, right? When's the last time you actually went and sat at a coffee shop with a Lay's consumer and they don't know you work for PepsiCo, right? And just have a conversation with them.
Kyle, you've always caught my attention being a little bit more common sense, more consumer, but we're both empathetic to it because we've been in it. For everyone who's listening, or to the marketers that work in corporation, why do people get so boardroom centric, not consumer centric? Why? And then B, how do they break out of it?
I think it goes to a bit of your theme and under and overvalued, right? So take your principle of a market. If you want to have a steady investment that has median returns, which is what a lot of folks want because it's safe in a boardroom, right? I don't want to get too high. I don't want to get too low. Buy an EFT. Just follow the market, but you'll never beat the market. Let's be very, very clear. The best you can ever hope for is a margin of error that's an algorithm, and it's less than a point. That's an EFT. Go buy a Vanguard fund, be done. If you want to try to beat the market, and for us, beating the market is winning share, higher returns, you've got to take some calculated bets. And that's what we're talking about here. If you're out buying, AI chips today, you're a year too late. Like, that's just the reality of the world. You're a year too late. But there's something else out there, right? So Gary, I think that's it. I call it this: you're either playing to win or you're playing not to lose.
Yeah.
Too many people sitting around a boardroom are playing not to lose. But you can look at any sport in the world, brother. If you play not to lose, eventually you get scored on.
Prevent defense in American football.
Yes.
Up touchdown. Literally, a football team will go 57 minutes giving up 10 points, and then the other team has the ball with 2 minutes left, and they go right down the field, score 7 because they play prevent defense.
It's Mahomes versus. So there's so many stories of this.
I apologize, but I literally said this to a bunch of marketers the other day. I said, your fear of losing is creating losing.
Yes. And what's the worst thing that happens in big corporate is it doesn't work, and you got a great resume and you can go somewhere else. And so what we're starting to do at PepsiCo is bring in entrepreneurs, bring in people who maybe aren't in this industry, who and maybe they're happy to get a good, large corporate, understand an end-to-end business, work for a couple years, 3 to 5 years, and then move on. And that's a different model. So it's to me, it's once again human centric. Are we thinking about what our teams look like, our people, those elements, Gary? Yeah.
What have you experienced either recently, currently, or in your career outside of maybe even where you're at now, or even as a human that has friends, most overpriced or underpriced marketing execution you've seen? What comes to mind when I ask you that? Because I think the concept of, it's funny. Let me actually jump in to give you a few seconds to think. I met with a CEO the other day who had a Super Bowl spot, and they had a very famous person in it. And they said, "What you think?" And I said, "Depends on what you paid her."
Exactly.
If you paid her $15 million, I think you overpaid. If you paid her $400,000, I think you stole it. So anything can be good and bad. I've seen people waste $10 million on social media in a year because they don't know what they're doing. So there's no blanket statement, but I'm curious from your perspective, anything that you can share that's allowed to be shared. Anything stand out on the best deal you've ever seen on its return, or something that you're like, oh man, we really wasted it there?
I mean, I think one of the best recent examples would actually be what you and the team and we all worked on together with Twisties, right? We took a brand. When I came into that business, Gary, I heard, it has great awareness, incredible situational salience, all the marketing buzzwords, right, that we all know, the funnel, blah, 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 blah. I said, that's cool. I went out and talked to consumer. I said, yeah, that's my dad's favorite. So have you bought one? No. And just flip that, right? And then use this consumer up social plus insights put together and really bring that to life, I think. And then we constrained the budget on that brand, and it forced the team to be hungry and humble. And look what we've been able to do, right? And then using the art and science. I think that's an example. I think I can give you a recent one from a market tour. We're talking about, Lay's is the #1 snacking brand in Thailand, where I'm sitting here today. And so I went out into the consumer immersion. I was working with Gen Zs, and I'm like, we're looking at Shopee and 7-Eleven now, and all the apps. Actually, the biggest. It just passed over the biggest social to purchase right now is actually TikTok, since they've released commerce, right? And I go back and I talk to our marketers, hey, walk me through our 360. And they got so excited to show me our TVC ad. And I literally asked them, so I'm sitting with these consumers in their house, and the second a TV commercial comes on, you know what they did? Everybody picks this up.
100%.
So why am I paying for an ad? So it's just, I can give you that's probably an easy, nice one. I won't get into our Super Bowl commercials over time, but Now, if they got a steal on that TVC buy and maybe that works in upcountry, great. But I know what we paid for it. I'd say we overpaid, and we're not spending enough time on other channels. So you just got to optimize in real time.
I'm so sorry that Tim is such a mean man.
Tim's great.
I love you, brother. Stay well. Good luck.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Kyle. Amazing to have you. Nice. Okay, well, we're going to jump over to Japan, and we're going to talk a little bit about Hello Kitty, Gudetama, and the million other characters that Sanrio have that I didn't realize they had. So, Yuko-san, welcome. Let's get you on board.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yuka-san, I think you're about to be the most popular person here. The chat is about to go crazy.
Yeah.
The icon that is Hello Kitty. Why don't you say hello and tell everybody a little bit what you do, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, so I joined Sanrio last August, and just listening to everyone is kind of interesting because I started out my career working for Hakuodo, selling very expensive TV media. Then I joined White and Kennedy, which is also very famous for creating very, very expensive TV spots and doing the Super Bowl ads. Then joined Google. So when I started to do marketing for Google, the budget was super low. We were not allowed to hire actors, actresses. Everyone was a Google employee who actually went into the videos. So the budget was pretty low. But if you look at Google right now, they're spending a lot of money. And then Sanrio, we rarely spends any money on advertising. It's all about our IP, and it's about engagement with the other IPs and brands. So I've seen the whole dimension of it.
And that's amazing. So given that you've seen truly both sides of the spectrum, as we sit here on April 24th in America, I think it's April 25th for you. This is fun. What's your best observation of when you think about seeing everything from both sides, what is obvious to you as overpriced and what is obvious to you as underpriced marketing behavior?
I mean, like what you are trying to communicate is already popular. Then you can have a very strong engagement. People will pay for you to work with you. But if you're not, then the price you have to pay becomes expensive. So it's very intertwined. So you have to think about how can we make this brand stands out so that everyone come to you and work with you for free. So you need to think about how to create a brand that's strong. But meanwhile, sometimes you do have to pay for something to boost the kickstart, the beginning.
One of the most, and somebody said this in the comments I was reading, people are starting to figure out, let's boost things after they've proven to do well organically. Let's not guess on where we put our media weight. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we have more than 450 characters. And then what we are seeing is very similar to what's happening in the stock market. So there's a 7 very popular stock like NVIDIA and Tesla or so forth. And that because everyone has the data, people want to invest in something that they feel like they can continue to invest. So popular characters tend to become more and more popular. But what happens is, once that investment goes too much or over-invested, that stock might crash. So you always have to look at things in a portfolio-wise. So you have to look at the data. You need to look at the comments to see what people are looking for next. So you need to you need to invest on the big ones, but at the same time, you also have to have a lens so that where the next trend is coming. Where you don't need to spend a humongous amount of money.
I'd be remiss, everybody would kill me in the comments, the 9,000 people watching right now, if I didn't ask, what's the latest and greatest with Hello Kitty?
So Hello Kitty, she's going to be 50 years old.
She looks great.
So I think, that the reason why I brought up this picture, and you see the red bow on everyone's head, and you don't really know, you don't have to see the full picture of Hello Kitty to know this is about Hello Kitty. So over 50 years, it has established, this is Hello Kitty. People will recognize that. but we don't have to control everything. We don't have to control the shape of Hello Kitty to remind everyone. So I think it's that there's the brand that we have built. So how do we create very strong brand at the same time? The brand becomes more fluid and it becomes versatile, so it can integrate with the latest technology or latest trend. So you have to look at the both sides of the stock and flow for the brand.
Yuka-san, anything, I think, especially I can speak for Americans, but I market globally and I pay attention. I think one of the reasons so many people in the world adore Japan is because it is really genuinely a unique culture. Obviously, every culture has its uniqueness, but it really does stand out. As we sit here it's amazing how fast time flies. We're almost halfway through 2024. State of the union of things that are going on in marketing, virtual influencers, live streaming, Line versus YouTube, versus Instagram. Anything standing out that you're excited about from a marketing standpoint?
So, because I think, when you talk to people in Japan, more than 30% of Gen Z, they choose their favorite IP through social media. So I think 30% is actually pretty low, but it's compared to other generation, it really stands out how the Gen Zs are finding out about the IPs. So like TikTok's being great. It's just how fast it's growing, and then how it interacts with other brand. It's really mesmerizing. And what we observe is creating very expensive content isn't the key to success. You have to be nimble, you have to be fast. And what my team does is they watch TikTok all the time. They find what's trending, the dance and song and the move, and then they just work on it. They don't even need my approval. They just go and they create these collaboration videos and put it online live. So it's a very different way of working. Coming from agency world, working for Wyden, you need months of research, and then you have to go through rounds of approval, right? But by the time you do that, the trends will be gone and the brand will be stale. So how can you do that? So while maintaining the brand essence, but at the same time, how do you ride that the trend?
Well,
I think
it's funny because I think brand essence, on brand, all that. As you know, there's a big disconnect between how we talk about that in boardrooms and what's happening in consumer reality.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the friction we're all struggling with, right? I had 37 meetings today in New York City where people said, but Gary, I want to stand on brand. I showed something, you'll like this. I'm going to do this in real time. Of course it needs to stay on brand. That makes sense. But literally, I'm going to just do this right now. This is me searching Hello Kitty on Instagram right now.
Yep.
Let me just look. Yep. This was all done in the last 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Your company has no chance of keeping up with the end consumer's content creation.
Right.
So when I talk to a lot of fashion brands today and some apparel brands that are like, but Gary, I get your concept of relevance to many different consumers, but I want to stay on brand. And I do that, what I just did with you. Like, here it is. The world it's not 1994 anymore.
Yeah. So as long, we cannot, I come from a department like global brand management, but we are not really managing it. We are not controlling it. We are nurturing it. And we are thinking about how the brand can be relevant to people.
So thank you
Wish
so
I
much.
looked like Hello Kitty when I was 50, because then you don't have to have this face.
We all love Hello Kitty. All right, Tim's ruining the show. Yuki-san, thank
Absolutely.
you so much. Move on.
I couldn't find a pink bow. I tried. I'm sorry. Thank you, Yuka-san. It was so lovely to have you.
Thank you.
An amazing lineup so far. We have one more, which is Alvin, who runs all things marketing and customer at Fair Price Group in Singapore.
Gary.
So I'll let you guys
See you
take it
again.
over.
Great to see you, my friend. How have you been?
Great. I was asking Shrey, when are you coming again to visit Singapore, man? Miss you.
I miss you too, brother. I should be there, I think, the fall. So I can see
Looking
Shrey
forward to it.
in the background. He's smiling cheek to cheek behind stage. Alvin, you've had the luxury of listening to everything. As an incredible marketer, as an OG of the game, let's speak first to the people in our industry, not the ones outside of it. What do they finally have to let go of? Like, what is it like? Why? What are they holding on to for dear life that they're far?
I think you were talking about the decisions about how to spend on marketing in the boardroom and what's the reality out there. It's really very true. In the boardroom, a lot of the times it's about risk management, right? It's like, in the old days, in the tech industry, they used to say no one ever got fired for
hiring
IBM, right?
Right.
Just like, no one ever got fired. When I was growing up as a young marketer, we were trained in 30-second TVCs and full-page print ads. All those are challenged now. The ROAS, the return on advertising spend, for those which we track, are very, very challenged. And we are actually, of course, pivoting to, quote unquote, the digital realm. But even there, you can make some really, sort of not good investment decisions as well. So here's the reality. Here's the reality for my business, because we are a retailer, we're the largest grocery retailer and food service provider. We run a bunch, the top food court chain in Singapore. We are a platform business. Most of the brands that we sell don't belong to us. They belong to other people, manufacturers, all the FMCGs, etc., who use our store or our platform or our food courts to sell their products. So for us, the store is the brand, and the key is the brand is the lived experience. So this is very key, Gary, because we're not selling this or that. And so what do people talk about? What will people talk about is the lived experience, and that's what we really focus on. Because in a world flooded with content, nobody cares about your brand. Honestly, nobody cares about your brand. They care about themselves.
Correct.
And what they need to get done.
Correct.
Right? And they need to get something done easier, more fun.
I apologize. Real quick, I want everyone to hear this. Alvin's very right about this. Nobody cares about your brand. Everyone cares about themselves until your brand contributes to oneself.
Exactly.
The reason fashion works is people buy fashion because that helps them communicate to others. Or in a different way to think about this, when you were in high school and you got a zit and you were worried about it and you thought you were going to go to school and everyone was going to make fun of you, the reason most people didn't is because they had a zit too and they were worried about their zit.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. So my advice, or here's my, I'm not a guru or anything, but my own learned experience or evolved, thinking is, go where the energy is in terms of where your consumers are, what they care about. Go where the energy is, whether it's special interest groups, which is what, with data and analytics, you are really able to see where those are and engage with them, not target them. That's a kind of a different kind of mindset, right? Engage them, delight them, help them get what they want to get done, right? And of course, there's this whole thing about user-generated content. I think we should also be talking about user-distributed content, right? So that's why in our market, the underpriced or undervalued channels are the instant messaging for us, like WhatsApp, Telegram, etc. Because this is person to person. They go to our store. You'll see in the background, I just put it up on my backdrop. This is a grocer bar. We have rolled out 5 grocer bars across our supermarket chains in the new stores, right? Why would you have a bar in a supermarket? Well, it's something different. It's a value added. You can shop, you can have a drink, you can meet your friends, and you can get 2 jobs done at the same time because everybody's, starved for time, that kind of thing. And then people, it was wonderful when we launched this store. Folks were just coming down and taking, IG shorts and videos, and they were just sharing it, and it became like a huge thing.
I love it. Alvin, in your incredible career, what was the most underpriced marketing execution or sales or like, I'll give you a second to think. Does anything stand out, or overpriced as like, oh my God, I'll give you one while I give you a second to think for everyone. history lesson for my company. WineLibrary.com, 1997. I was very early, and I bought an ad on Luxury.com. Luxury. And I thought for $25,000, which was like $1 million to me at the time, and they were going to put it on the top of their website. Alvin, I thought I was going to sell $10 million worth of wine. 9 o'clock, I open the liquor store. I go to the computer because there was no this back then. I had to go to the computer. I couldn't wait to see nothing. Then about an hour goes, nothing. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. They're on the West Coast in San Francisco. Their 9 o'clock is my 12 o'clock. So I got calm again. I wait for 12 o'clock. I look for sales, nothing. I spent $25,000. I got one customer. I thought I was going to get 10,000. Luxury.com, banner on their website. One of the worst things I ever did. Do you have a good story or a bad story? Anything come to mind?
My response to that, Gary, is it really depends, because whether something is overpriced or underpriced depends on how you use it. So for example, in our market, less and less people watch TV, right? Free to air TV.
Every month.
But the older generation do.
Yes.
So it really depends on what your marketing campaign is.
But Alvin, as someone who markets in Singapore like I do, I can get to the 50 to 80-year-old set on Singapore on actualized reach and consumption on Facebook much better than I can on television.
Agree. So I'm not saying that we don't have enough money to go ATL to that segment the whole year round anyway. But what we do is we use it very sparingly, like for big festivals where we need really that 360 bang for, let's say, Chinese New Year, right? To reach both on digital, offline, online, that kind of thing. So I would say use it. If you use it in the right way, sometimes sparingly for the so-called traditional media, it can still work as an overall. But in general, I would say that the traditional media is very challenged, like I said, and but we can do a better job. I would say in underpriced, underpenetrated channels, which is why I'm instant messaging and stuff like that.
I'll see you in the fall, my brother.
Looking forward to it, bro.
Love
Take
it.
care.
Stay well.
Arvin, thank you. I didn't get to properly interrupt. My haters in the chat aren't going to hate me so much. Go on, dial it
I
up.
know, Tim, you're like a super villain.
My favorite.
Well, Tim, we have Shri and as Kaylin here. I know we're
Kaylin's in. Yes. Yeah, let's bring Shri and Kaylin up.
10,000 people watching now, and the many more that we are launching consulting in Asia for VaynerMedia, which is exciting. It's been a big part of our growth. We don't just do the creative and the media for clients. We're doing a lot more consulting. I'll let these two lovely people give us a little 411 as we close out the show.
Awesome. I can kick off. So yeah, we actually launched consulting in the US back in 2020 in like the thick of COVID. And at the time, it was really off the hypothesis that both the agency model, but also the Fortune 500 marketing model was and was going to continue to need to change. And as with everything we do, we want to be in the right side of history. And so it's been 4 years in North America, as well as in some of the other markets. Excited to finally launch in this region. And I think, in the spirit of underpriced attention, Gary, when we launched consulting, the first thing you said to me is, this is about stealing our brains. We want every client we work with in consulting to feel like they got the best deal in town for the output that we're providing. And so that is our mission. We're playing a very long game. And we're here for the ebb and flow of in-housing. We're here for the ebb and flow of the complexities that come with, multi-market strategies. And we're here for the ebb and flow of day trading attention and setting marketers up for the current and future state of what's required to sort of keep pace. So I'll hand it over to Shri.
Well, thank you, Kaylin and Gary, Tim. Really excited about bringing consulting to APAC. As we heard from a lot of marketers today, everyone is going after underpriced attention. People want to put social at the center of marketing. We've been hearing that a lot. Of course, we hear about, hey, we have these contracts or budgets and everything. So I'm so glad consulting is a way to remove that friction, and we can work with more and more clients around the region. And my favorite thing is what Kaylin, you and Gary have said is, we want the clients to feel that they got more value out of what they paid for. So that's what's most exciting. So we have immediate audits, workshops, accelerators, a lot of great, exciting ways to collaborate together. So really excited to collaborate with clients here.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Trey. Like, I grew up. I think we sit here tonight, the four of us at VaynerMedia, still affected by my father's liquor store. My father's liquor store was called Shoppers Discount Liquors. And my father built an immigrant American dream on selling product for a better price. And the three of you have worked in different places. You know, I have this obsession on, if we're getting paid, we need to be a better deal. And that is the thesis of underpriced attention and day trading attention. Like, why would you, even Alvin, who we just talked about, I'm empathetic to 360, but it's not super complicated. Why would you pay more money to get to 60, 80-year-olds on traditional TV than you would on Facebook? For what? If you can get to all of them the same for far less. And I think everybody, as we sign off here, for the 10,000 people that have joined us today, which is amazing, overpaying for things, even when you're wealthy, is a bad idea. And it's a very bad idea when you're doing it for marketing. And I think in APAC specifically, Australia, Japan, and everything in between, there's an incredible opportunity to do it better. And, you know, Trey and Tim, I really thank you for being two of the 10 to 15 meaningful leaders and the hundreds of incredible team members we have. Like, I think we're on it. And Caitlin, thank you for your leadership. And so thank you everybody for joining for this late night edition for many of you, because I know a lot of us are US based, but early morning edition. It was Tim's birthday the other day and everybody was wishing him a happy birthday based on his time. I wanted to wish him a happy birthday. I wanted to wait to my time because that's how I get afterwards. So anyway, I love you. I love the three of you. And I thank all our incredible guests. And we'll see you next time on Marketing for Now.
Thank you.